Hey, dear viewers, once again, it's Zion Holy City, the IT guy. Today, I'll be answering question 6 of the Survey Regional Mock Examination 20K20 online level, Computer Science Paper 2. If you don't have this question paper, make sure you click on the link below and download this question paper. Okay, let's dive into the question. Question 6A. To process data into information, the computer uses 3 main stages. 1. Define the term data and information. Data is just raw facts which need to be processed. Yeah. Information is just processed data. Let me just take you and show you an example. If you are asked to create an account, maybe a Gmail account, you have this page, this web page, where you have to enter your first name, your last name, username, password, confirm your password, and you click on next. All what you're entering here are called data. When you finish entering the data and click on next, you enter some other sets of data again. And when you enter those, you click on OK. When you click on OK, that system online will process that data into what we call information. The information will be where you will get in your email account, your email address. That's the information then. But here at this point, you are inserting the data. That's the main difference between the two. Okay. Question 2. Name and describe the 3 main stages in processing. In processing, we have input. Yeah, like in our case of creating an account, we have to input using what? A keyboard. You must use your keyboard to do your input, or your mouse. You are going to use a keyboard for that input. Then process. The next stage is process. That is, the processor will now convert that data into information. The third step is output. Output, where you see the available information. You're making available the information, the data that has been processed, the information, and you can see that with your monitor. So you have the input, process, and output. Give a device used in each of the stages of processing. You have here, for the input, you have the keyboard and the mouse. For the process, you have the processor. And for the output, you have a monitor. B, give 3 differences between the RAM and the hard disks as storage devices. Good. I'll start with storage. For the RAM is a temporal storage device. Here is a RAM, picture of a RAM. It stores data. If you have power failure, let's assume that we have a power failure. There's a while we have a power failure here. Then eventually everything here will disappear. Everything, all the data in your RAM will disappear if you have power failure for the storage. So it's a temporal storage device. Meanwhile, with your hard disk drive, it is a permanent storage device. Beg your pardon, this down. A permanent storage device. Let me bring it down for you to see. Yes, it's a permanent storage device. So here's a hard disk drive. Here is what it stores. It stores information. So when there is a power failure, as it's a permanent storage device, you can still get back your information. Whereas with the RAM, it's not the case. When there's a power failure, everything disappears. Okay, now let's talk about proximity. The RAM is closer to the processor, the CPU, than the hard disk drive. Everything from the hard disk drive needs to pass through the RAM before it goes to the CPU. So in terms of speed of processing speed, in terms of processing speed for data to move to the processor for processing, information from the hard disk drive will take a longer time than the data in your RAM to reach the CPU. So for proximity, this one is closer to the processor than the hard disk drive. In terms of storage type, the hard disk drive stores information, meanwhile the RAM stores data for processing. So when you click on save, that data that processed information will be stored in your hard disk drive. Okay. C. Define the following terms as used in project management. 1. Slack time. In project management, float or slack is the amount of time that a task in a project network can be delayed without causing a delay to subsequent task, that is free float, project completion date, total float. So to calculate the total slack, just to throw more light on that, the total slack, you have here LS minus ES or LF minus EF, which stands for early start, early finish, late start, late finish. To get the slack, you can just apply this formula, you will see everything will come out here as it is. So with this slack time, it must not affect, it should not affect the critical time. There's what we call critical time, which will the critical path, which we'll define down here. So the slack time should not affect the critical path. That's why it's written here. Slack is the amount of time a task can be delayed without changing the critical path. Very important when you're doing your project management, drawing the Gantt chart and the others. 2. The critical path. The critical path can be defined as the longest duration path in a network. A task on the critical path has 0 slack. So with the critical path, there is no slack there. And it's the longest duration path in a network. Let's try to look at this example. From 1 to 8. Let's take the first path, path 1. It passes through A, C, F, H, I. Where you do a summation of these numbers here, which are in days, you have 14 days for this path up here. For the second path, which is A, B, E, H, and I, if you make a summation of those days there, you have 16 days. For the third path, which is B, G, G, I, you have 25 days. So this 25 days, which is more than the 16 and the 12 days, is called the critical path, which goes along with this definition here, the longest duration path in a network. That's why it is said that there is no slack in that. Slack can occur in this other path, path 1 and path 2. The last thing, number 3, predecessor task. A predecessor task refers to tasks that must be completed or at least begin before another task can start. Successor tasks are those that follow the predecessor. From the word even, we can just imagine what it's all about. Predecessor diagram. We have task A here and task B this way, follow task A, predecessor to task B. Driver of B, task B, successor to A, driven by B. Is like what naturally happens, like your parents now, they very soon they will be predecessors and you will be their successor. And at a certain point in time, you'll be a predecessor and your own children will be your successor. So a predecessor is the task that comes before the successor. So I think it's very clear. I've come to the end of question 6. In my next video, I'm going to answer the question 7, Make sure you subscribe to the channel so that when I publish these videos, you can be able to get them on your devices. Thanks. If there's any comments, you can write it below, then I'll come and I'll get to the comment and answer. Thanks for watching. God bless you and have a nice time.